I really didn't, I wasn't aware of the fact that I was not well. It's so easy when you go to the doctor, right? And you're like, cough, 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 I'm sick, right? Like, when you have a visible symptom that can be measured by means of a thermometer or a blood test or a nasal swab, right? And you have concrete evidence and concrete, just like stuff at this point, like this.
Okay, I found this on the web for by means of a thermometer or a blood test or a nasal swab right in.
Siri. Hey squad, thank you for tuning in. Friendly reminder, I am a part of your tribe but not your medical team. So anything that you hear that inspires you and that you want to try, please take it back to a professional. All right, enjoy today's episode. Just come to me, I'll give you that sweet type of love. Hi squad, welcome to another episode of Fluffy and Fit. So glad that you are tuning in today, even if it is not the day that this episode dropped or aired. I'm so glad that you are here. I want to be very transparent. I tried to record this thing on 2 different days. This is probably attempt number 5. And I'm having some difficulty just being so transparent when it comes to this topic. And yet I feel like I cannot speak about anything other than this topic. And it's very, very frustrating. So I'm going to jump right in, and I really wanted to honor May Mental Health Awareness Month. And when I say I did everything, I did things that I don't usually do when I record, notes, note cards, all the things, because I'm like, I just want to get this right. I gotta get this right because this is a biggie. Well, this is attempt number, what did I say, 5? Might even be 6. And at this point, I really don't care about getting it right. I care about getting it out. So I really hope that it comes across. I am going to say right now that this is the last time I'm going to attempt to record it. And it won't be the last time that we talk about mental health and all the things. But I just could not have an episode my first year of the podcast, and it's May, and not touch on this point. So if you hang in there with me, y'all, thank you. So this is not easy, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to talk about okay, I'm going to talk about how I really didn't, I wasn't aware of the fact that I was not well. It's so easy when you go to the doctor, right? And you're like, cough, 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 I'm sick, right? Like, when you have a visible symptom that can be measured by means of a thermometer or a blood test or a nasal swab, right? And you have concrete evidence and concrete, just like stuff at this point, like this.
Okay, I found this on the web for by means of a thermometer or a blood test or a nasal swab right in.
Siri, stop.
Evidence and
Siri, stop. Mind your business. I don't know if she's gonna keep talking, y'all. But I'm not, this is the last time I record this, so you get everything anyway. But it's so easy when you know you're not well and it's something that's tangible, right? You see it, other people see it, and there's that like one concrete test that proves it. It becomes even more difficult when you feel like there's something off, but you can't articulate it. You don't even know where to begin. Is it physical? Because let's be for real, our mental manifests as physical, right? The way our bodies deal with stress, the way we deal with stress, the way we deal with sorrow and pain and disappointment, a lot of times manifests itself physically, right? And so when it comes to mental wellness, it's something that a lot of people still struggle to take seriously they still struggle to prioritize when it comes to anything dealing with the mind. Because let's be for real. Look at how educators are treated. Look at how our therapists and our mental health clinics are treated. And so when you then take this thing that's not taken seriously, that's not given a lot of study, that's not given a lot of credence and time and respect, and then when you pair it with something that is physical, such as being overweight, being obese, being morbidly obese, it then becomes very complicated. And so for me, oh, this journey has taken so many different routes. And today, like I said, I'm not going to re-record this. Okay. So I'm speaking from the heart and I'm trying to make sure I control my emotions. Um, because I can't be crying out here on the internet. Okay. I can't, not when I'm posting it. Not when it's going to live and be housed forever on YouTube. But recently I realized my mental health mattered a lot more than I thought it did. And so what does this have to do with Fluffy and Fit? I had to I've experienced some things when it comes to my mental health. And what I realized is my experiences impacted my thought patterns. And before I even realized it, and I am still learning myself, and I'm still, as I'm in therapy, just really making connections, which isn't always the a fun part in therapy when you're like, oh, so that shit was connected to that shit. All right, great. Um, but getting to a point where I can honestly say that my life has value and that my life is worth living. Huh. Okay. This is not what's supposed to be happening. Okay. And so when it comes to being, when it comes to living in society where, because of my body, people already devalue me, it's not easy. Um, I said I was going to record this and not stop. Okay. Cause if you know me, you know I don't do the crying, okay? I'm also working on that in therapy. She'd be like, girl, I'm like, no, suck it up, buttercup, but real aggressive, like, okay. Um, but this is where I'm going, and so I'm gonna be obedient and transparent. Um, in society, we could talk about the how the definition of beauty comes through media, social media. Growing up in, the 80s and the 90s, we had video vixens and you had all of these beautiful women on the screen, and it became this image that I realized, hey, I have to look like that in order to become beautiful. And so you would try to do all the things. The first and most obvious change was weight. Because at the end of the day, baby, my skin is always going to be chocolatey. I just don't understand why folks out. I can't, them a bleach up the skin to look like a brownie, not me, right? So I knew I was always going to be darker. And I knew I was always going to have like a round nose. My nose, as a matter of fact, I don't think I have a nose bridge. And I told somebody that. And they were like, what are you talking about? I don't, it just goes like forehead and then nose, right? And I think it's the cutest thing ever now. But I was like, I'm not going to have that straight European nose. And so all of these things that even though, again, watching music videos and the video vixens and BET and all of the things, I wasn't really looking at just European descendants. I wasn't just looking at white people. I was seeing black women as well, but they still had so many of these features, right? They were black, but they were light skinned. They were black, but they had long silky hair. And I was just like, where the hell, like, what DNA strands are being combined to make these women, and like, how am I supposed to get there? And so for me, the only focus, the only shot that I had was, well, look, bitch, just lose some weight. And so that is how I grew up. And what's crazy is it's not how I felt, immediately from my parents. I did get some things in more of an immediate circle where I was not, I didn't feel valued because of my weight. And that was, from one person in particular. I'm not going to go there today. I'm not, but it was a family member. And it was just like all of these experiences that kept reminding me every day, hey, Selena, you're not beautiful. Then you go out with your friends, right? And you become the friend that everybody loves to bring with to the party. Everybody loves to bring with to the movies. Everyone loves to bring with wherever, because you're the friend who's going to hold the bag when the guy asks them to dance or to do something but doesn't ask you. You're the reliable friend who they're like, oh, there are too many men. And you're the one that's going to be reliable and make sure that they don't go home with all of them. Because apparently it can be done. And you're just kind of seen as almost like a sidekick in somebody else's hero story. And years of that. Years of that, again, from afar, from media, so now with social media, and then up close when you're living different instances that people ignore. It's like, am I even, like, do people who know me even see me? Like, sometimes I remember one invisible moment I'll share where it really took a toll on my confidence and my self-esteem was going shopping. And no, not going shopping because I had to go to the plus size store or the plus size section. I really didn't care. Like, I was just like, what store has my size? Because I hate this thing. No matter what size, I'm not a shopper, right? But it was when I went with two friends. They were both smaller. They were both very different in physical constructs, but they were smaller, right? So they were shopping like size medium and maybe size large on a good day. And one was a size small. And they're like, oh yeah, let's go shopping. Oh my gosh, let's walk the mall, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost like, y'all supposed to be my friends. Okay, let's see if my friends value me, right? So we go to the mall and they're going into all the stores, and I don't think they realize, like, hey, these the clothes in these stores go up to an XL. I haven't seen XL since I was maybe 16. Probably not even. I might have been 14, right? And so I now belong in the 1X, right? And the 2X and the 3X. And so it's like, do they even notice that I'm not able to participate in the shopping experience? I think they noticed. I just don't think they really gave a shit. And then at one point, I think it was one of those, because this happened years ago, but it was one of those, oh, let's go somewhere that you could shop, Selena. Thanks. Because now that you noticed that there's no space for me here, now you make it clear that I'm an afterthought. That it was never, hey, I want to shop with you first. It's always, you're an afterthought. Even in a regular store, look at where they put the plus size clothes as an afterthought. It's usually in the back corner behind maternity, because they're like, you can be pregnant, but you can't be fat. You can have a pregnant belly, but you can't have a fat belly, right? And so we finally go into a store that has plus size. May I remind you, we went to several regular sized clothing stores. And I think they lasted about 10 minutes before, you know how somebody gets like this very blank look on their face, like they're bored, they don't know, because nothing in here is for them. And so at this point, their friend, who literally needs to go to another store, is just now taking too much time. One of them actually left. She was like, oh, you know what, let me check out the store across while you're in here. but I thought this was a girls' shopping trip. And so I've lived through all of these scenarios that it wasn't until recently that I really started to say, Selena, all of those things, even the things that you put away, like, oh yeah, y'all go to your store. No, no, it's fine. It wasn't fine. But you had to always be fine for everybody else because you were the friend who was always fine. You were the friend who was always the fat, reliable friend. You were the friend who helped everybody else with their situations, and nobody seemed to be available for you. And you were the friend who was an afterthought, that even when you tried to do something and you just required just something a little different, you required a store that had your clothing size, it became just too much work for them. That plays on how people feel about themselves, how they see themselves, and it definitely impacted my mental wellness. I didn't know it then, but unfortunately what happened all these years was things just kept getting stacked. And something that you were like was one small shopping experience became years of always shopping alone because of that experience, right? That one experience that somebody made a comment um at a holiday dinner became years of holiday dinners that you didn't eat the same, or you ate in shame when everybody else was finished eating, because you're like, you just didn't want somebody talking about what was on your plate. Like the one thing suddenly becomes a rule that you create in order to just survive and exist in a world that clearly says you're not worth existing, and the fact that we let you even exist, you should be okay with. And so when I struggle with mental health in different ways, and I feel like we all do. When people say that, people are like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? We all struggle. Like, mental health is like physical health. You struggle with physical health when you're sick, you struggle with mental health, and it just looks different. Some people have things physically that is just a daily lifelong thing, right? Same thing with mental health. The same way some people don't have lifelong illnesses or conditions, but they struggle what I call intermittently. I have a cold right now, or it's allergy season. It's the same way with mental health. So, with that said, I've had many situations where, when I reflect, I realize, man, that broke me. And yet there wasn't space for me to be broken, or a safe space for me to even acknowledge the brokenness, right? It's crazy. Um and so as the years progress more and more, I put on this really great front where it's like, yeah, I'm the plus size, bold, confident friend, when in fact I was hurting. I was hurting more days than I was healing. Wow. I was hurting more days than I was healing. And it lasted years. The impact of which included bad decisions um, that ultimately impacted my my ability to really focus on wellness. I ate a lot of my feelings. I ate a lot of my emotions. Um, I didn't know how else to interact with people outside of going out to eat, because it's like I felt limited. People want to do activities, and I'm like, I can't do that shit. Like I couldn't physically, but I could go out to eat. Um, and then I found that a lot of my smaller friends seem to be more comfortable and more free eating around me. And they would even say, they're like, oh my gosh, I could just, oh, this is so good. I love, wow. I'm sorry. I'm processing as I say this. Like, it's like they were like, well, I can do this around her because clearly this is how she eats every day. I mean, Celia, where are you going with this? I said this was going to be difficult, and I will not re record this one more damn time. I'm not doing this episode over and over again. But bringing back to Fluffy and Fit, what I realized recently is that in order for me to start to experience success, I had to really start dealing with some real shit. Um, I had to start dealing with my health holistically and stop isolating it in parts. Like I can no longer say, let me just focus on the diet and not focus on the movement, or let me focus on exercise and try and over exercise my diet. And most importantly, let me focus on how I eat and what I eat and how I move, but not focus on my thinking patterns, my relationship with food that needs to be healed and mended, my relationship with myself that needs to be healed and mended. I I have lost weight. That's what people tell me. The scale, in my opinion, does not say that. I have been recording my weight for years. I have like years worth of data that shows that it fluctuates. Like weight fluctuates, obviously. But I had a friend one day, she was like, she was watching, we send recordings to each other, and she was watching the recording, and she's like, I'm trying to listen to the words that you're saying, but she's like, I'm looking at you, I'm like, oh my gosh, Selena lost a lot of weight, and it became frustrating. And sometimes it still is when people say that, because I'm like, it's not weight. The weight is still there, right? But she did something very, very interesting and profound. And initially, I didn't know how I felt about it, but then I sat with it. She took a screenshot. And then she did a split screen of a picture that I took maybe a year and a half before, which is when we had met. I didn't even recognize the girl in the picture. And this whole time, and like, I don't think she even realized how long I stared at that picture. And I was like, who was that girl? It was a year and a half ago. Like, who was she? And then who am I staring at now? Because again, I got so caught up on success being a number on a scale, instead of saying the number on the scale is one of many data points, it became the sole focus to tell me whether or not I was successful and am continuing to be successful. And this picture was like truly a smack in the face. And then I was like, Selena, why is it that when you've been looking in the mirror for the past year and a half, you don't see what she saw? And that's like that mental wellness where I'm like, it matters, because everybody isn't going to be as bold as my friend was to send me a side by side, right? Everybody's not going to be that bold. Everybody's not going to have that ability or that capacity. I don't care how many times somebody looks at you and says you're beautiful. If you don't think that for yourself, it means nothing. It means nothing. And so I realized that I would never be successful unless I started working on how I thought about myself, how I thought about my situation, and how I thought about just who I am in this world and who I get to be. I am so grateful of the work that I have been doing with my therapist, the work that I was doing before I started therapy, my meditations, my Bible studies, the conversations that I've allowed myself to have with people, and the conversations that I refuse to have with people, aka the boundaries that I have formed, where I'm able to finally say, hey, my weight might be the same. I might still be struggling in this avenue, but guess what? My mindset is shifting. My thinking patterns is shifting. And what that means for me is I get to stop being my own punching bag. I get to stop beating up on myself. I get to stop ignoring the parts of me that I was ashamed. Like, let me tell you something right now. Baby, this right here is my trouble zone. I don't don't care how many pictures I take and I think I look differently. I look in the pictures, I was like, oh, you're still here. You didn't go anywhere, and I would do everything. I'm talking about wearing big, heavy sweatpants in 105-degree weather just because I felt like I wasn't allowed to exist. And, for those who know, I did a 3-minute speech a couple years ago called Take Up Space. And in that speech, I might include it, but in that speech, I talk about sitting in a first class airplane seat, literally, while I was thinking about what should I talk about. And in that seat that was designed for people to have more room, to have more comfort, in a seat that I could actually fit in, I was like squinching myself up and kind of going closer to the window just because I didn't want to be an inconvenience to the man sitting next to me. And it was in that moment that I realized, Selena, you have been struggling for years with this idea and this notion that your life doesn't have the same value as somebody else just because you are morbidly obese. And I think that was the beginning of the work that I started to do, where I prioritized my mental wellness, because something happened. And subsequent things followed, but something happened in that moment where I was like, Selena, that's not healthy. Like, there reaches a point, like, even go back to physical, where you're like, oh, this can't be healthy the way I'm eating, right? Or this can't be healthy, the fact that I only get 500 steps a day. Like, I don't exercise. So the same way that we have those moments, whether we do anything with them or not, right? I think we all have those moments where we're like, ooh, that's not a good decision for my wellness. And so I had that moment, but it was tied to my mental wellness, where I was like, I don't think I should be thinking like this. I don't think I should be having, I used to call them my dark thoughts. And I will often tell people, I'm struggling right now with fighting the darkness. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something I was fighting. And it wasn't always tied to my weight. Please, let me be very transparent. It was not, and it is not. But it was definitely one of the components. And so in that moment, I ended up writing my speech right there on the plane, and I ended up delivering it. Um, but it was just this aha moment that has now transpired to about a year and a half, 2 years later, and a podcast later, where I'm like, before I can do anything else, like, y'all, I will see a eating plan and I'll receive an eating plan, or I'll, get this workout idea. I give myself challenges all the time. I'm like, oh, 100-day challenge, Selena, you're going to do this in fitness. But now, before I do it, I check in with myself mentally. And I put my mind first. My mindset and my mentality and my thinking is priority number one. And I know it sounds strange because it's like, girl, you try and do something that's physical. Why would you prioritize the mental? Well, because how I think impacts what I do and my behaviors, which then impact the physical. And so, because I'm not a robot, I could follow a plan. But when life starts to life, when the darkness tries to sneak in, when a comment is said that then transports me back to childhood, when something happens at a store, or I hear somebody else share a story that makes me think about that shopping experience, like, our mind is an amazing tool, but it's also very powerful, and it can be our best friend or it can be our worst enemy. And so I realized in this journey that I need to make sure that a part of my journey includes my mental health or my mental wellness, because I need for my mindset and my thinking to work for me. I need for my mind to become my best friend in this process. And if my mindset is right, then even when I don't always make good decisions, but even when I'm making a decision that I'm like, man, Selena, you sleeping in again. You're not going to the gym again? I thought we was only going to take yesterday off, but now you want 2 days of rest, right? But I get to process it, and I get to process it in a way that is uplifting and powerful, raw and honest and accountable, but not condemning. And when I say that has made all the difference, it has made all the difference. Someone once asked me, they said, how do you continue to try at this thing? Like, how do you keep going when you haven't been successful the way you've wanted to be successful? My mindset. My mindset. If you watch the last episode, my mindset, just even thinking about what is failure, if not the ability to learn something new and try again differently. My mindset, that shit didn't come overnight. Like, but working on my mental health, wellness, and working on the fact that it's important that I acknowledge how I see me. I look at myself in the mirror now, and y'all, probably in a very unhealthy way, do I do this? But your girl be loving herself, okay? Like, we grown, okay? And it's so funny because I'll see the tummy, and there's something on my tummy. Yes, because I'm 41 saying tummy. There's something on my tummy, and it's like this light line that goes down the middle. That has been my recent fascination. And so I'm lotioning, and I just love to like lotion around that line. My also recent fascination is how one breast is usually bigger than the other, but one breast has been considerably larger than the other. And I stand in the mirror and I'm just like, why won't you? And just loving myself. But it didn't happen overnight. And it's something that I work on every single day. I don't lotion myself. Well, sometimes I do, depending on like the situation. But I want to say 9 out of 10 times when I lotion, I'm lotioning myself while I look at myself in the mirror. Period. Period. I can lotion myself without a mirror. No, I'm looking at myself in the mirror. And because I've been working on loving my body, because I don't even know, because I tried to record this so many times. I don't know if I gave the quote already. So if I haven't, my bad. If I did, well, I'm just saying it again. But Megan Jane Crab, she's an author, a creator, a podcaster. She said these words, and I was searching for the perfect quote, and when I read these words, I was like, sis, thank you. She said, hating our bodies is something that we learn, and it sure as hell is something that we can unlearn. And doing things like lotioning my body while looking at my body in the mirror is one of the many ways that I am unlearning this self-hatred that I didn't even know existed. That's what makes it so scary. I didn't even know that what I was thinking, that the way I was viewing myself, that the way I was viewing myself in the world was a form of self-hatred. I got tired of hating myself. If people hate me because of my size, that's their business. I am no longer taking that on. I genuinely don't care anymore. Do I want negative comments? My she's all for, girl, because you got to put your podcast here and get this, but because like getting followers and more people, I don't even want all that. Because with all that comes all the trolls and the negative comments. I don't even want it. But I tell you this much. People are going to hate people who have joy. That is what I have learned recently. People are going to hate people who have joy. And when you are existing in a world that tells you that you should not exist, that your existence is wrong, that your existence, you're not worthy of things like beauty products. You're not worthy of fashion. You're not worthy of love. You're not worthy of joy. That is truly what people feel out here when they see people who are my size or bigger. And then you have the audacity to know that that's how people feel, and you out here living your life smiling, laughing, enjoying life, going out with your friends and your family and your loved ones and your partners, you have the audacity to be happy and you know that the world hates you? Yes, I do. Yes, the hell I do. I use this term, and again, this is a podcast catered to an adult audience, and I speak the way I speak, and sometimes I cuss, but there are words that I try not to really use. But there is this word that I use, and I call it the niggadacity. I have the niggadacity to be out here now at the age of 41 to say my hair is never going to be straight. Y'all, the locks. Because after the locks, I got to cut it off. Okay? So my hair will never be straight. My nose will never be straight. My skin will never be light. And while fluffy and fit, yes, I promote wellness and wholeness and healing. While yes, your girl is still planning on getting a little snatched. Yes, I will always be fluffy. There's no part of me that wants to be skinny. There's no part. If you see me out here skinny, just say a word of prayer. At that point, and I don't even mean, I know that's, I don't even mean it as a joke. Like, I really need for you to say a word of prayer because most likely I'm unwell. Okay? I have no desire for those things. I desire joy. I desire to live not just a long life, but a healthy life. And so for me, that means that I'm going to continue to watch what's on my plate. I'm going to continue to move as often as I can, lifting weights, doing cardio. I'm going to continue to work on my mentality and my mental health so that I don't miss the joys of my blessings just because the world is trying to take my joy away. I am going to continue to work on my spirituality. I'm going to continue to work with a therapist on my emotions and just how I process it because it's years of unlearning that needs to be done. I'm going to continue to say it's okay that it's taking me time because the time is worth it. I'm going to continue to love. I'm going to continue to laugh. I'm going to continue to have adventures. Why? Because I've been working on my mental wellness, and my mental wellness is now showing me at this point in my life that to everybody who thinks that I don't deserve it or thinks that you don't deserve it, screw them. And the best way to really say F you is to just be you and do you unapologetically. I don't even know if this entire recording made sense. That's the realness of it all. But I was tired of figuring out what's the best way to really speak on this in this moment today, because I know I didn't touch on so many things, but what's the best way that I needed to share my experience today with you. And I really do hope and pray, like, if you know somebody who is struggling with their mental wellness and their mental health, even if they don't realize, or even if you're not 100% sure, just join them in conversation. Don't get all in their business now. I'm not saying get into people's business, but just sometimes asking someone, how are you doing? And actually meaning it, not using a how are you as a greeting, but sincerely saying, I care about you. I want to make sure you're well. Is there something I can do to help you in this moment right now? Your few words might literally be the few words that save someone's life. Your few words might be the few words that changes somebody's decision that they were about to make that could have cost them their life or just years off their life. And now they just gained it back. And sometimes you might not have the words. Sometimes you might not be able to share the words, but there's something that I have realized that is even more powerful than words. It's a genuine smile. And sometimes that's all it takes. We don't know what that person on the treadmill walking next to us is going through before you worry about judging them or even comparing yourself to them. Maybe you're the one walking and thinking you're struggling one way. You see that person running on an incline and you're like, man, I'll never be able to get there. You don't know that that person is running right now because they're literally trying to outrun the thoughts in their head. I have known two people, known not like personally, but I've met, interacted with, worked with, two people who physically, one of them actually like bodybuilder, cut all the things, um, took their lives. So we look at people sometimes and we're like, oh, they have it all together. And then we criticize ourselves for not having it together. When in fact, everybody right now is really just trying to get it together. And so with that said, my last thoughts would be, know that you're not alone. If you are struggling, I am so sorry, and I'm really going to make sure I include it somewhere on the screen. There is a suicide hotline. So if you are struggling, call. I'm going to put the number somewhere. Please call that number. If you're like, Selena, it's not that serious for me, or that's not exactly what I'm experiencing, but I am struggling, look up, you're like, how did you find your therapist? Psychology Today. And I'm going to keep it real. I was scrolling the pictures looking for somebody who was black. For me, that was the first thing. That was the first thing. I said, I need to speak to a sister. I need that sister. Like, and that was the first thing. And like every other doctor, sometimes you got to go through a few, right? But if you talk to people, just having a conversation with people, that's why I love that clip from oh my goodness, what is that show? Survival of the Thickest. Okay. I love that clip, right? When he was talking to his boys on the basketball court, and he was like, nigga, you in therapy? Hell yeah, you in therapy too? And then his friend to the right, I'm a whole licensed therapist. But imagine how long they were playing ball. Y'all never had that conversation. So if you're like, where do I even begin? I've been focusing on the diet, the exercise. It hasn't been working. I'm realizing now that it's so much more than those two things. Those two things are important. We're going to keep talking about it, but it's so much more than that. I just don't know where to begin. One, just begin with a conversation. Don't live in shame. There are at least 2 to 3 people you could trust, and of the 2 to 3 people, if they're not receiving therapy, they definitely can point you in a direction because they probably know somebody who could recommend. Secondly, I would say be patient with yourself. This process, mental wellness and mental health, baby, if you thought the physical wellness was difficult, oh, the mental, it takes heavy lifting. Be patient with yourself. This ain't no light work, but it's a life work, right? And so it's not meant to be something that can be fixed in a day. Be patient, take your time. And 3, celebrate. Celebrate your achievements. If your achievement is the fact that you didn't cancel that therapy appointment, that's celebration. If your celebration is that you were able to identify in the moment you were having negative thoughts, that's celebration. Stop beating yourself up because you're having it and start saying, you know what? I am so excited that I can at least recognize I'm having it, because the next step is then to stop it in its track. As always, peace, love, so many blessings. And as you continue to travel from wellness to wholeness, I urge you in this month of May, or whenever you're watching it, if you have never considered where you are in your mental health journey, take some time to reflect today and start adding it into your regimen. I promise you, how you approach everything else, including how you approach other people and situations in your life, oh, it's going to be impacted. Until next time, stay well.